What up, people? It's Emmanuel for Altenor Media. Now we're up to episode 6 of the second season of 13 Reasons Why. So make sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews and reactions going forward. I just finished watching episode 6, and that was a crazy episode, man. We just keep learning more and more about Hannah. Woo! That was intense, man. So this was Zach's episode. Man, so Zach is on the stand and he's revealing, his whole interaction with Hannah. We know about the letter and, the little interaction they had, but he reveals that they actually had a whole summer relationship the year before she killed herself. And they actually smashed all throughout the summer. So they were like serious. And we had no clue about that last season. Like they were like in love. And we start off with she writes a letter to him, letting him know she thought he was, different from his friends, but he's really the same thing as them. And I said this a few videos ago where I think Zach he's a coward. In a nice guy's clothing. And this is another representation of that. He couldn't stand up to his friends and tell them, yeah, he wants to be with Hannah. So he basically ends up breaking, they break up because he shows up at the movies with Bryce and the whole other gang. And they're getting on her and he just acts like he doesn't even know her. So she's trying to save face, so she just suggests that they just end it all, and he just goes along with it. But neither of them really want that. But he's a coward, so he just lets it rock. And so let's get into other parts of the episode. We see Mrs. Baker. You can see that she's a little upset with her husband now, because now she knows that he lied to her, that he's living with the other woman in her family. So she doesn't even want to hold his hand when they were standing in front of the press and all of that. And her, whatever, that woman who's with her all the time, she's not on board. And she's saying, if you want to do the united front thing, then you have to go all in with it. You have to hold hands. But Mrs. Baker is having none of that. She can't see just how her husband could just move on so easily. And we also see Mr. Porter. Last episode, he fought Justin's mom's drug dealer boyfriend, and now his wife is picking him up from the precinct. And she's letting him know this is getting a little dangerous. It's noble of you to try to help the kids out, but there's glass on the baby's car seat, so you can't take it too far. And with that, now the baseball coach walks in and lets Mr. Porter know that he put in a favor for him with a friend at the police station. So he's kind of expecting Porter now to go easy on Bryce and the baseball team. So he's trying to bribe him. So Porter, you gotta be careful with that. And now they're trying to find out more about the clubhouse, and Sherry gets that information from Ryan, because he asks her. He actually names the clubhouse. So she tries to take that back to Clay, but Clay, after finding out about Hannah and Zach, he's just like, he doesn't want to deal with it. So I guess we can go forward now. Clay, when he is in class and he finds out, he goes to see Zach and he just rips Zach. Like Clay was heated, and he let Zach have it, and Zach just took it. So Clay is like, he's devastated because he was in love with Hannah. He couldn't imagine that she felt that way about someone else, and that she connected with someone else in that way, where they actually, did it all throughout the summer. So now Clay is really seeing a Hannah that he never knew. And when he talks to Hannah's mother, who's trying to convince him to testify in the trial, he's saying it's like he never knew her. So again, this is like Clay and the mother, it's like they're watching a show just like we are, because they're learning about Hannah and they're seeing signs that they never really saw before. Okay, and we see Justin. He makes his way to Liberty High and he walks into the crowded cafeteria. Everyone is looking at him. They recognize him, and then he walks up to Jessica. And then she basically says, "I wish you were dead," and I was cheering her right along. You said it right, because once again, Justin is trash. He let Bryce rape Jessica, so he's guilty. So even though we know Jessica is gonna loosen up on him at some point, I cheered for her at that moment for letting him have it, because Justin is trash. I'm gonna keep saying that, he's trash. And Bryce wasn't too happy to see him back. So he faints after maybe he was about to approach Bryce, and then they rush him back home. I'm sure we'll be back to Hannah and Zach at some point. What else do we have here? Another funny moment when someone broke into Clay's house and they went through his stuff. I think they might have taken something. Justin was like, "I'm not dealing with this." He went and hid in the closet. That's kind of a weird place to hide, because the dude could have actually went in the closet and looked for you, but luckily for him, they didn't look in the closet and they went out the window. But then his dad walked in with a baseball bat. And when he saw Justin, he was like, "Who the hell are you?" That had me rolling. That was the funny part. And then when there was another moment in the Zach and Hannah saga, when they found out that Zach and Hannah were together, Bryce put a pair of bloody panties that said Hannah on them in Zach's locker, and Zach flipped out. So when the coach comes in between them, he tells them, "I don't care who you are outside of the locker room and the baseball diamond, the baseball field. But once you're in there, you're brothers, you're a team." So he's basically telling them, you can do whatever the hell you want outside, but don't bring it in here. So even if they're doing shady things out there, that's not his concern. They just better be winning. So you already know what type of mentality, what type of environment that whole baseball system is at the school. What else we have here? Oh, they also Tyler and his boy. they hacked into Zach's iCloud and found a raunchy video of Marcus getting a lap dance and being just cheered on by, I think Bryce was somewhere in the background and some other people. So they're going to use that to mess with those dudes further. So, and Tyler and his homie, they're really feeling themselves right now. They really feel empowered right now. So they're just now really they're gonna become like the bullies, maybe, or like just standing up for themselves because they were at the shooting range getting their shoot on, and his friend is looking more and more comfortable with that gun too. Another interesting part was when Justin called out. He called out the double standard that Clay had, because Clay felt that. I mean, I guess since he's in love with Hannah, just the idea of hearing her being so intimate and in love with someone else, he's lashing out. So I'm guessing Clay probably thinks, Hannah, he's probably thinking she's a slut right now. And ironically, it takes Justin to make him see the double standard that guys can sleep around with 100 girls and they're called players and they're congratulated. You're a pimp, P-I-M-P, but if a girl does it, she's a slut. And he points out that Hannah she liked Justin. She was with she slept with Zach, and she just kissed Clay. So that's only 3 people, and she wasn't even having sex with all 3 of these people. So it's really unfair to label her that way. But Clay has created such an image of Hannah that even just these little things are just so heartbreaking to her. But it also just shows you how just the case is that they're ruthless. It's bringing out all of the dirty laundry, and it shows just how the perspective of someone dictates whether we see them as a victim or not. And the more negativity, the more they reveal Hannah and these other boys, the more, we don't believe her story. We don't see her as a victim, and it shouldn't be that way. So let me make sure I got everything for this episode. But I think we're at a good place right here. Yeah, so Hannah was really good to Zach too. She got him through a really tough time, and maybe she would have pulled through if he was true to her. But we saw in that last moment when she deleted his picture and her screen was just black. That was just a representation of now it was really over for her. She had nothing at that point. It was just blank. So that was a representation of her life at that point, because she was really happy with Zach at that point. But yeah, this episode was crazy. Oh, let me point out too, Jessica is really taking control of her story now. We see her visiting the survivors meetings, and Jessica's visiting the survivors meetings, and she's speaking out more about it. So she may be inching closer to the point where she's ready to take on Bryce on herself, but she's doing it at her pace. So hopefully she gets to that point comfortably and in her time. So I'm wondering how it's going to be when we see Clay testify for Hannah. But yeah, just wow, man, this episode, this was a lot. But now I'm really looking forward to episode 7 because yeah, Hannah and Zach, I would have never expected it. It's crazy. Last season, it was kind of hard for me to understand. How was this enough for her to commit suicide? It didn't seem like she went through that much, but you don't know what's going on in a person's life. Now, through the stories, we're getting a really in-depth look at what was going on in her life. Now it's easier to see how people were betraying her and just the sadness she had and what really pushed her to that point. So now season 1 makes even more sense with the specific stories, with her and Courtney, her and Zach, and just everyone. Now we have a complete story. We know exactly what's been pushing her over the edge. And Clay also pointed out that she omitted her relationship with Zach and that she did that to protect herself because in the last episode she said she only told her story, but there are multiple sides to stories. So now we're seeing the multiple sides. So even Hannah in her tapes, she shared what she wanted to share. So this is really interesting. Well, anyway, that's all for episode 6. Let me know what you thought about this episode and everything. Make sure to comment, like the video, share the video, and subscribe to Altenor Media. For more. I'm Emmanuel. Thanks for watching. Peace.